Ride the airwaves with Biker FM.
I'm still free. Take a chance on me. If you need me, let me know and I'll be around. If you got no place to go when you're feeling down. If you're all alone, when the pretty birds have flown, honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me. Gonna do my very best, it ain't no lie. If you put me to the test, if you let me try. Take a chance on me. Take a chance on me. Oh, we can go dancing, we can go walking, as long as we're together. Listen to some music, maybe just talking, get to know you better. 'Cause you know I've got so much that I wanna do. When I dream I'm alone with you, it's magic. You wanted to leave me there, afraid of a love affair. But I think you know that I can't let go. If you change your mind, I'm the first in line. Honey, I'm still free. Take a chance on me.
So welcome back to the Speedway Show on Biker FM. Take a chance on me, and that's what some of the Coventry Bees fans are possibly wondering, as we welcome to the show their new team manager, Blayne Scroggins. Welcome, Blayne.
Good evening, Chris. How are you?
I'm okay, mate. In your own words, when I spoke to you on Sunday, quite a hectic 24 hours, mate.
Yes, certainly was. Yes, it's been a bit of a shock for quite a few people. Lots of conversations and lots of stuff going on, but yeah, it has been a turbulent weekend, really.
Certainly seems to have been. Well, we've had a huge amount of questions which have been sent out in for you this evening. If anybody's got any questions they want to send in now, you can do that using the shout box on the website, bikerfm.co.uk, and you can use the shout box on there. Or alternatively, you can email those through to us at speedway@bikerfm.co.uk. So if it's okay with you, Blayne, we'll go straight into the first question we've had through for you. This is from Rob Brownhill and Pat Collier, and they've said, we've had a few questions asking where you've come from in appearing on the Speedway scene. So Rob particularly asks, what's your Speedway background and your credentials?
Well, I've obviously been a fan of Speedway for many years, following mainly Peterborough, doing various jobs there, you know, as a fan really, doing things like track raking, and then just got involved behind the scenes. And at Peterborough was the first time I got involved in management. I did various roles there. Obviously, always involved in the management team, picking teams, talking to riders, and I had riders stay with me. And then when Nick Horton bought Milton Hall, I went over there as assistant team manager in the Conference League. And that year, I believe we finished 4th. And then Nick took Milton Hall into the Premier League, and I helped build that team. I was instrumental in bringing Jason Lyons to Milton Hall. And then we also had a Conference League team as well, and I was team manager of that. And that was just a team of young 16 and 17-year-olds, and it was just brought on board to look for assets. I'll be honest, we didn't have the best start. We lost our first 9 games and 9 meetings, but the boys, you know, when the average age was only about 18, they gradually got together, and by the end of the season we'd made the National League 14 tournament final, finishing 3rd. We got to the Pairs Championship final, but unfortunately went out in the semi-final. And by the end of the season, you know, we put quite a good run together. Stayed at Milton Hall for quite a few years, even when Mick left, the new people asked me to stay on. And then obviously had a couple of years away from sport until Mick asked me to come involved at Coventry. And that sort of brings it up to date, really.
Okay, so Rob Brownhill's also said, so what clubs have you supported in the past? He's asked 2 questions here, but he's also said that, and then he said, do you know the rule book inside out?
I mean, like I said, I mean, obviously my first, you know, I was a keen fan of Peterborough as a fan, home and away. But working behind the scenes, it's been Peterborough and Milton Hall, and then obviously Coventry now. As for the rule book, yeah, I'm fairly au fait with that. It sounds really sad, but obviously, every now and then when I've got a spare moment, I do have a read through and brush up and keep certain rules that you won't use in the memory. And then obviously whenever you're doing anything like looking for a guest or anything like that, you always have it by your side to make sure that you've got everything correct and on board. You don't really want an incident like Paul had at Peterborough recently.
That's good. Well, and Pat goes on to say he heard you managed Mildnall in the year they only managed 1 point. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's actually worse than that, and I'll be quite honest. They actually finished the season, they didn't get a point. I was actually assistant manager that year. The team, it was the third year in the Premier League. There was a new owner, and he came in with a very restricted budget, and we put together, a very poor team, not making any excuses. But the team just wasn't good enough on paper. And then, unfortunately, I've now got that record of being involved with the team that went the whole season and didn't win a league meeting. We only won one meeting all season in a cup competition. But it was just one of those things, just to be honest, the team just really wasn't, even if it wasn't a Premier League standard team. And once our number one left, we had Guy Lau come in, and he came in short term. Once he left, we didn't replace him. And like I say, the team just wasn't good enough.
Okay, that's great. The next question is from someone called Luke Perry. And Luke asks, where do you think the Bees realistic will finish this year? And who do you think will be in the team come the end of the season, if anyone different?
I'm still extremely confident that this team can make the playoffs. The team was put together in the winter for a team to make the playoffs. Once Scotty's back and the team are all firing and we click, I honestly believe this team is good enough to make the playoffs. And there'll be nothing better than I want to go head-to-head again against Paul at the end of the season. As for the team, at the moment, the plan is for all riders that are currently in the team to be there at the end of the season. But I mean, as we've shown, especially against Lakeside, that some of the riders are now starting to find the form. And like I said, once we get the GP qualifiers out of the way and we've got the full team, I don't think that there's any reason or why this team can't climb the league and make the playoffs.
Okay, we've got Paul Quarterman and Simon Glitt who have asked, what are your plans for the future of the Coventry Bees? So I suppose that's sort of towards beyond this season, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking, we've got the Midland League started this year, and we are looking at trying to extend asset base. We're already in negotiations with 2 Scandinavian riders. They are 2 riders for the future. 2 riders we're looking at. 2 riders hopefully sometime this season will be coming over to the UK so we can have a proper look at them. And we're also, as you've seen, a couple of second halves. We had Nathan Graves the other week. We're already being recommended 2 or 3 young 14 and 15-year-old British riders. We hope to make them part of the club, and the long-term plan is that they come on part of the club. We find them a Conference League club, we support them, we help them, and then they eventually would become into the Premier League and then become a doubling up rider and eventually being part of the Coventry team as a full asset.
So a bit of a question from me. I just wanted to say, so obviously with Colin Pratt sort of moving over for you to come in as a team manager, how is he going to work with you? How has his role changed?
Well, I mean, Colin is still a huge part of the club and still a person that if he was not involved in the club wouldn't be able to function. Colin does a lot of all the day-to-day work. There's a lot of contact with the SPA office in dealing with various things on that side. We've just, there's not going to be a massive change on what happens on race nights. Mitch just decided we're trying something different. Colin's got a wealth of experience, and I hope that I can always give him a call and talk to him and run things through with him. Colin, is an integral part of the club. as I said, we wouldn't, the club wouldn't function without him. And I mean, I'm sure that he'll, for various things, still talk to the riders. And with somebody with that much experience, you still want them to be involved in the club.
Certainly, yeah. Brings me kind of nicely on to the next question we had then, which was from Rob Brownhill. And he says, what can you bring to the table as a team manager that you think maybe Colin Pratt couldn't bring to the table? The reasons behind the decision as such.
Mick just felt that the two team managers wasn't working, just, as was initially expected. And with one or two results not going the way that they should have done, it was just a change that we thought, sometimes a change can produce better results. And it was just a change that he thought he would do. As for what can I bring to the table, just maybe a slightly different approach, maybe a little bit more enthusiasm to mix it in with the boys. Colin knows the rules inside out, and he is very good at what he does. But it's just like I say, we've got a lot of meetings coming up shortly, and we're just trying something new. There's still plans on bringing an ex-rider in to work closely with the boys on setups and things like that, and giving advice on that as well. So it's, we were still looking to extend the management team and moving forward, and hopefully it is a benefit long term to Coventry.
Do you have a rider in mind currently for that riding slot, for the rider who's going to come in and advise the capacity? A lot of people today have been suggesting, because we've got John Juliuson on this show later, it might be him, but I don't think it's JJ, is it?
No, there's no contact has been made yet with a rider. I know on different forums I've seen people say about Sam Ermolenko. Sam was just there on Friday because he was with NGK, one of the main sponsors. But there's nothing set in stone yet. But, in an ideal scenario, it would be somebody like Sam Ermolenko. Nick and I had spoke about the possibility of approaching Jason Lyons, but, he's just now taken over a similar kind of role at Bellevue. So there'll be some, a rider that's rode at the top, that's just maybe not been out of the sport too long, that can still offer advice as and when needed.
We've had some messages in that quite a few people are quite happy with the team. Laura Isom and Kelly Ryan, they both said it's the best team we've had in ages. But we've had Adam Lyons and Alan Boone saying, is there any changes you are going to make, and have you got any signings in mind?
As it stands at the moment, there's no plans to make any signings. We plan on keeping the team as it is at the moment. We all know there are one or two issues that look at the doubling up between Lee Lanham and Aaron Summers isn't ideal, them both being Thursday tracks. But at this precise moment in time, the 9 riders, are still strongly in the plans of the club.
Okay, next one's from a lady called Jane Oliver, who says, have you been involved in the team talks? If you are going to be, obviously, which you will be in the future, what are you going to say? And will you be doing the track walks with the team?
Yep, I'll still be doing the track walks with the team as I do now. I'll be getting more involved in team talks. That's something that I'm quite keen on. I know quite a few other clubs do it. And it's just really getting through to riders. Most of the time, 9 times out of 10, if I'm honest, the riders are fairly motivated and up for it. But it's just trying to get them focused and believe in themselves, like we did when we recently rode Lakeside home and away. We had the bad meeting against Birmingham. We had a good positive team meeting beforehand, and it was just a case in the pits to get them focused on what they have to do, remind them of what they need to do, and also, if things are going well, getting together and telling them that things are going well. And equally, if things aren't going very well, getting together and just try to get them refocused and explain that, what needs to be done moving forward on that particular evening.
We have got a little bit of a bizarre question here, and it's come from Rob Herbert, who's one of my friends from Sheffield Speedway, and also Martin Brummie, who's one of the regulars at Birmingham Speedway. Are you related to either the lady in the post office on Postman Pat, or the actress Tracy Scroggins off Babylon 5?
No, I can't. I did think of saying that I was a distant relation to Tracy Scroggins out of Babylon 5, but no, I'm not. I'm not related to either of those.
Because it's quite a unique name, Scroggins. Where does it originate from, mate?
It originates from America. My father's is an American, and that's where it originates from. I think initially my sister once traced the family tree, and I think it's potentially we come from Irish origin, but you do see it in America a bit more, and that's where it comes from. But it's even in America, it's not a hugely popular name.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've got a question here from Kelly Ryan. She says he's really happy with the team, although as you've already said, the Summers and Lanham double-up combo isn't always ideal. She thinks the clubs need more promotional offers. I'm not sure how involved you get in with that. But she also suggests that yourself or Mick or both of you could come out pre-meetings to do an interview for the fans, so they know, so they get to know you throughout the season.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, as we just spoke about the doubling up, and it isn't ideal. Obviously, it's known that we signed Lee Lanham when he was on a Sunday track at Newport. Unfortunately, they closed. He then moved temporarily to Rye House, which still wasn't necessarily a great issue. And then obviously he signed full-time contract for Ipswich. So, initially that was always our plan, not to have two riders where possible riding on the same night, but it's just unfortunate, that's the way it's worked out. Our next meeting is away at Peterborough, and this issue again has raised. So potentially it is something that, maybe we do need to look at for the benefit of the club. As for the promotional offers, yeah, that's a fair point. What I would suggest is that Kelly or anybody's got any ideas at all, please, email via the website, and then, we can look at them and see if they're practical, and, anything that they think would work, we'd be interested in. And as for coming out on the meeting, do you need someone coming out by the start line, or just a general interview?
Yeah, I think what they did last year, Roscoe used to come out before most meetings and just give a bit of a briefing on, if they'd been away during the week, if they were looking at new signings, just really bring people up to date, and so they can put a face to the person kind of thing, and build that relationship with the fans. Yeah,
that's not an issue at all. I'm sure we can speak to Peter York, and we can sort something out there. I'm personally quite happy with that. I don't have an issue with that at all. And we'll look, speak to Peter, and maybe get something in the pipeline for the next home meeting.
Great stuff. The next one's a little bit more of an awkward question, because obviously you've already said that you're hoping to finish the season with the riders that you've currently got on board. But this one's from Phil Blackmore and Malcolm Cresswell. They say, and this is quite direct, when is Henning Bayer going? Mark goes on to ask, how long are you going to persist with Bayer before you get a young Brit in, something that you mentioned. He thinks the fans would much prefer to see a young Brit who tries hard than Bayer, who is, in his opinion, finishes where he gates and makes little effort.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. At the moment, I'll be honest, there is no plans to replace Henning Bayer at the moment. And, with the greatest respect, even if there was, I don't think a radio show would be the place to discuss, someone's employment, because technically that's where he's an employee of the club. But it is a valid point. So as it stands at the moment, we will still persist with Henning. Henning's just sent his engines to be repaired and rebuilt for the next meeting at Peterborough at a considerable cost. I know that's part and parcel of the sport, but the problem we've had is when the team was built, the plan was always to have Aaron Sumners and Adam Roynan as our 6 and 7 as our two doubling up riders. We all know that the governing body changed the rule on the 2.5, meaning that Aaron then had to move into the main body of the team. We were then left with a very small amount of points, but it couldn't be, obviously, a doubling up rider, so we had to look at bringing somebody in that only wanted to do the Elite League. So even to try to replace a rider on those conditions is difficult. Yeah, a young Brit, you're quite right, would be out there and giving it his all, but he would probably be wanting to ride in the Premier League and possibly the National League, like Weatherall and Adam Roynan. So that isn't a possibility because they just wouldn't, an English rider just wouldn't do at that level on that average, just the elite league, because they just wouldn't earn the money and get enough meetings. But we are, as I said, looking at 2 or 3. I know it's long term, but we are looking at 2 or 3 English prospects to bring in the future.
That's great stuff. We've had an encouraging message in from Sophie McNamara, who says, congratulations to the team getting into the next round of the Knockout Cup. She's been to both legs and thoroughly enjoying them. The Bees team and management has hers, her family's and friends' full support. She just mentioned, as you did, it's great to see Adam Roynan improving and Bomber back where he belongs with the Bees. It's now time to start climbing the table. And I'm sure that's in your thoughts as well, mate. The last few questions which we're just going to run on to, because we're kind of running over schedule and we're a little bit hectic in relation to guests on the show tonight. Pete Lawrence and Alan Boone, they've sent in a few questions for you. One which you've kind of dealt with, which was the double-up riders of the Thursday nights with Aaron Summers and Lee Lanham. Why is 3.49 average Josh Orty not with the Bees this season, or Ricky Wells, both riders who we've persisted with in the past, who were both performing well above their averages this year?
When the team was built and we were looking at various options and what assets we had, a call was made to Josh Orty because his average would have been ideal. At that point, Josh had already agreed to ride for Scunthorpe on a Friday night. And in the conversations that we had with Josh, at the time the previous management hadn't left, and he made it clear that he didn't want to ride under a certain manager, and he'd already given his word and signed for Birmingham. We spoke in length with Josh, and Josh has confirmed that he does want to be part of Coventry's plans, and he does want to come back and ride for Coventry at some time. As for Ricky Wells, he was always wanting to go to Wolverhampton. Although both riders are assets, at the end of the day it's quite difficult because a rider will ride where he wants to. Even if they are an asset, they will ride where they want to, and Paul had that, didn't they, with the pole. So that's the thing. But they say Josh Orty was definitely in the plans because his average just fitted nicely. But he chose that he didn't want to ride for Coventry at that particular time.
Okay, we've got one more question. It's also come in from Pete Lawrence and Alan Boone, and they said, why is the NSSC involvement in the 50-50 ended? They've been involved since they can remember, and fans participated knowing the money was going to a good cause. Where is the other 50% going now? It's not going to help young riders, ? So
yeah, that's another good question. It has been spoken about in the past. The Speedway Sports Club from Lincoln were asked to stay on involved, and instead of giving large amounts of money to the main riders as well as helping out the young riders, there was a request that did they want to make a donation to help cover the running costs of the club, i.e. things like tyres, race insurance, and things like along those lines. They decided they didn't want to do that. The club decided to take it over and run it itself, which is what they have done. And the 50% that is left over after the prize money goes out, goes into the club funds, and it will help riders for the various things like tyres, because we obviously provide the riders tyres and the fuels, and it does go on them. Money may go to a rider if they have an engine failure, an engine, i.e. like Hemming. So indirectly, it's still going to the riders, but not in the form of a large cheque for 500, 600, 700 pounds at the end of the season. It does, but it is still going into the club's coffers, so to speak.
Okay, well, that's, it's been great that you've come in and sort of answered the questions, and there's a lot of the things you said is about improving the club's asset base and supporting young riders, so I'm sure that the Bees fans will be happy to hear that. We've had a couple more very quick questions come in, one from Jay Simpson, and he's asked, why isn't Jason Bunyan being given a run in the team? Seems silly not to use him.
Well, just really because, it obviously depending on the clash of fixtures, but Adam is the first doubling up choice, and we persisted with Adam, and he proved on Friday, but with his points haul in the end. But I mean that is Adam is the same as Aaron. Adam is the first choice, and Aaron is the first choice. And if they're not available, then we will use Jason or Lee when they're available.
That's great. One final one, and thanks to everybody who has sent those questions in tonight. This is from Wayne Beckett, and it says, has the Coventry Bees got any intention of any young mascot again that can ride around the track on a bike, like a little PW50 or something? I think a big club like Coventry should have one.
Something that we can certainly look into. I know some clubs do it, and I will definitely look into that. If he wants to, just send us an email just to remind us. But there's no reason. I mean, we obviously just need to check in on the health and safety insurance side. But it's a good idea, and there again, something else that we can do for the image of the club. And yeah, there's no reason at all why we can't do something like that as well.
That's great. Well, Blayne, thanks very much for taking the opportunity and time out of your schedule this evening to come on the show and answer those questions for us. Obviously, some of them were quite direct, and people's thoughts and stuff in relation to the Bees at the moment, people's emotions running high.
Yeah.
So the team could certainly do you a favour and win the next couple of meetings, couldn't they?
Well, that's what the plan is. I mean, the next few meetings are tough. I honestly believe they're all meetings we can get points out of. We need to, as much as anything, to climb the table. Yeah, it has been, a bit of a traumatic few days, and I can fully understand, where people's thoughts are coming from. We have been looking on the British Speedway Forum. So yeah, we can fully understand that. We appreciate what the fans do, and we just hope that, they stick with us. We're going to do everything we can and try to make this a successful season come September.
And as you said, if anyone's got any suggestions for the Bees, promotional-wise, mascot-wise, whatever, just send those details in through the website.
Yeah. If a marking for my attention, they get forwarded to me. I'll pick up those and I'll send back a reply saying, yeah, we can do this, or no, we can't, and give a reason. But like I said, we'll always try, wherever possible, to take on board and do any suggestions the fans make.
Cheers, Blayne. Thanks for your honesty and thanks for coming on the show tonight.
No problem. My pleasure. Take care.
Cheers, mate.
Bye.